Hello and welcome again to Splitting Hairs, the series where I take you through my art journey. This episode is gestures, forms, and shapes. Right. So, at the beginning of the month, I decided to make a little course for myself to better my figure drawings. I was inspired by a video that said like if you want a style, you should make a course, like a you outline the practices you need to do to get better at it. So I gave that a shot. For the first week, I just did gestures. So these are 90-second gestures. I am very proud of these. I think these are some of the better gestures I've done. But I think I was focusing too much on getting a likeness, like measuring. I was doing more figure drawing than gestural work. For 90 seconds, this isn't so bad. I was taking notes of the pinching and the curving, pinch curve. I was taking notes of the pectorals. I was taking note of this tapering rectangle, which we'll see more later. Um, I was taking notes, like consolidating smaller forms into larger ones. And, oh, I was taking notes on foot simplification, something I came up with where, in order to not have to draw every single toe, I would just indicate the big toe, and then everything else can just be huddled up into one mass. This does good to indicate where the toe is facing, what direction. I think it's nice. Oh, something else to mention. The black color is what I was able to draw. The red color is something that I improvised later on to fill in whatever I couldn't draw in 90 seconds. These were, I was focusing a lot more on the gestures, and you can tell. It's very noisy, but I had this little theory, this shape I kept seeing everywhere called the quad. And the quad is just a square or quadrilateral, that's what it's short for, that tapers at both sides. So this tapers here and this tapers here. And essentially, a lot of things can be boiled down to the quad. And I was thinking, I wonder if I can apply this to poses too. It's a bit of a reach. I don't think it applies to poses, but it's still something nice to default to whenever you're struggling with, oh, I can't exactly see the arm, or I can't exactly see this or that. Just put a quad, and 9 times out of 10 it'll work just fine. Oh, I started using a lot more cross contours to describe how things go forward and go back in space. That's helpful. Yeah, not much to say here. Again, more 90-second things. I this one wasn't a very good page. I did like some of the gestures here, but I was struggling here a lot. I was very slow. This isn't muscle fiber, by the way. This is just me trying to trying to understand the form afterwards. I really put a lot of focus on just trying to capture the figure as I saw it. Like time limit be damned. So a lot of these have big chunks of them missing. This one was kind of okay. So then when I got here, I was thinking I'm not really capturing the gesture, so I'm gonna try to be more looser about it. This one's really good. Oh, I love this one. This one's pretty good. This one's okay. I kind of like what this one's going for. I was really using the quad, but eh. And then I got very pissed off at this point, and I did these very strong ink blobby sort of things, but then I kind of looked back at them and went, oh, there's something here. Okay, this is decided to switch from an opacity brush to just a size pressure brush to force myself to make more decisive strokes, and using that sort of ink blobby texture. And I have to say it worked. I think it definitely captures more of the gesture. I was struggling with a lot of these. This one's pretty good. I loved this one. Like I gave it a star. And I really liked just how gestural and globby and loose these were. I I picked this up for a while, then I dropped it. I think I'm gonna come back to it. Looking back at it, I think it's good. And then I started lowering my time to 60 seconds. This is where the glob approach really started to show its strength. Some of these were very loose, and I wasn't able to get too finicky. but I was really able to summarize the form and just get the big hitters. Really get the big hitters. In this one, I was really making effort to look at the data of the form. I realized I was doing too many. I was looking too much at the figure and not the data. I'm not trying to do side size. I'm trying to understand the data of the form. So it's not going to be 100% likeness, but ideally the big pose and the joints and things should be the same. This is so that I can take any character and then stick them in any pose, which we'll see more of later. In this one, I did a class session, 30 seconds, each time getting bigger and bigger. Some of these are really cool. I like these two in particular. These were so clean. I like this turn here. The way the form turns. Dang it, I'm still so proud of this one. And this one too. Like, it's so eloquent. And so... Oof. I'm the diva. I feel like the diva. This one too. Actually, I'm not too proud of this one now anymore. But yeah, this one was definitely that. And this one too. Oh, so good. Oh. Oh yeah, this one I struggled with a lot. I was very struggle busting this gesture because it was such a weird pose. It was very in-depth. I think I could have done it better if I did more cross-contouring, but live and learn. This one was 1 minute. I tried to keep the purity of the 30-second ones, and this one got close. This one had the best hands because I was able to show nuance in just 5 strokes. Like, you can tell this finger slightly up, the pinky is slightly up, and the thumb. The finger went to Garbo. The hands are definitely where it's at. These are negligible, and this one, looking back, I think it's not that bad either. I think I could have done better if I included this red thing was done afterwards to show like, oh, you should have done this. Yeah, I try to show depth just by indicating the knee and this and hoping convex lines would show enough, but this isn't ideal. I could have done better. Oh, these are bad. These are very bad. I didn't focus on the data. I ended up just doing figure studies. This one was better, mostly because I realized I was focusing on the figure, and then I reverted back and focused on the data again. So yeah, that. And this is where I really started playing with the concept of the quad configurations. I started thinking of it less as a shape and more so 4 vertices or vertexes. And you could spline or edit the way each is connected. You could use a C or a down or an S or an I. I don't know if I'm going to stick with this too much, though it's always good to keep in the back of my mind. Also, keeping in mind, real life isn't always right. And this quote from one of my artist friends, whose work I greatly admire Billy for. Good design is strong design, and strong design consolidates elements. This figure was making a really conscious effort to keep the data, the pose data. You can see here, this was the original data, the core gesture, and then everything else was using that core data to make a figure around it and not have it be too complex, not have it lose the gesture. These legs are questionable. This hand is questionable. Ignore the likeness, at least when it comes to this sort of work. And I wanted to go deeper than the skin, go deeper than the skin deep, access the true vitality of the figure. More gesture, another class, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes. I will say in this 5-minute one, I did super well. I think I really captured the gesture. I think I could have done this as 1 curve, but overall, I think I did good here. And this one's pretty alright too. I managed the gesture pretty well. Again, I think I could have simplified this into 1 clean curve, though I was still struggling with the likeness problem. This foot looks a little funky. This leg looks funky. And in this one, I did keep the idea of data. I kept the gesture. I only alluded to the likeness. I didn't focus on it too much. And I use the data to feed my style. And then this one This one was it was functional. It was perfectly functional figure, but I just needed a little bit of tidying up. That's what this is. Oh, okay, so this was since the second week. What I said earlier about I should be able to just take the data and put it in whatever form, that's what I started doing. In the first one, I did some 90-second gestures. I simply took whatever gesture the person had and I assigned a random body proportion. This wasn't too practical. The figure builds were average, so being able to push it like this was okay. I think I gave up in the last one, so that's a shame. So what I decided to do next was pick a character. In this case, I chose this tiger guy from the artist Plumey on Twitter, and I just took the gestures and plopped the body type on. Some of them were easier than others. It was very hard to do this one, for example. What I wanted to do was preserve the body type, but keep the pose all done in real time, so 90 seconds with this. And then I drew King Cosma for a Psyker challenge. Doing this again, this time with 60 seconds, and the artist is Ben Ku on Twitter again. I think I did way better here. I definitely did a lot better here. I was trying to look at the underlying shape. I was seeing the underlying data. Need to put stronger emphasis on interpretation instead of just copying the pose. Yeah, that's where I was going. Oh yeah, I started looking at the underlying shape of things. If I could just get the underlying shape free from anatomy, just a head, neck, torso, arms, pelvis, and legs, I should be good. So I took this pose and I reinterpreted it into this. Sort of, I did my own take on it. And the good thing about style is that it's your judgment on things. So I definitely like this one more, if only because I did it. I will say, I think the head is gonna snap. This shouldn't be possible, but and then I did a few more, just assorted. This is a mask, like a silicone mask. More 60-second poses. This time the character is from the artist at Muknagabe, or Muknagabe, again from Twitter. In this one, I think I did super well. Mostly because the character did lend itself to like these sorts of graceful poses because they're tall and graceful and a rabbit, and I like rabbits. I think I took note here that the snapping and bending doesn't happen at the pelvis, it happens slightly above it. And then many quotes from Ingres here, or Ingres. Have always a notebook and note down in 4 strokes objects that strike you if you do not have the time to indicate them entirely. This is feeding into the idea of gesture as a concept, not just for people, but for anything. The ancient painters and all the great masters carried out their frescoes after sketches, and their little easel paintings after drawings that were more or less finished. This is the idea of prep work and how you shouldn't really copy what's in front of you. You should interpret it. You should always arrive at the what you're gonna do. If you're gonna copy from life or copy from reference, you should at least have an idea of what you're gonna do beforehand, like a little doodle or something. So that way the reference doesn't overtake you, because it's very easy to do that. See, your model is never the very thing that you wish to paint, neither in terms of character, drawing, nor color, but at the same time it is indispensable to have recourse to him. To paint Achilles, whether you have only a ruffian, it is necessary that he serve you. He will serve you for the structure of the human body, movement, and plumb. So Ingres is where it's at. This was like a little gestural thing I did of his portrait, and it should be up here. I think I captured a greater likeness with that portrait than this study slash interpretation I did. I was too much of a coward, and it sits very uncomfortably in the middle. He looks very pouty. He looks very sad. Like, he doesn't look dignified. He looks like, like he grew up with grandma. Like, it's not all bad, but it sits in the lukewarm place between interpretation and copy. I must be more decisive. I made him very pouty. I was commissioned to do something related to Morgana, so I decided to take this day's gesture drawings and have it be Morgana. It was very hard to pose a character that has such a huge head, but I think I did it. I need to pay close attention to the ratios because Morgana has a pear shape, or I said a chunky ass. Pear shaped. I really try to focus on the pear shape here and try to do it everywhere. And at behest of a friend, he told me to just draw a bunch of cats to prepare for the commission. I don't know if it helped, but it was fun to do. I do like how each of these has some sort of character, even if I didn't intend them to. Cats are so emotive. I love them. Then I figured out, oh, cats have like a hexagonal shape to them. And then I put, cats don't need to speak. Their eyes have more life than most CEOs. And this is the last page. I decided to stop doing the course and I instead started to do some studies. I was really adamant about doing just cell shading, but then I changed my mind and I decided to choose the approach based on the subject matter, which I guess should be more logical, but you learn these things as you go. In this study, I was studying the handling of line, joints, and figure. This one is by Ghostkin on Twitter, or Ghost_K1N. Really good drawing. I like the form, I like the pose, I like the acting. What I didn't like though was the hand. This hand doesn't look like it had much love put into it, so I tried to put a little bit of love into the hand. And then study from Sargent, big cliche. In this one I was studying the handling of paint, and in that regard, I think I did good. I think I also color matched really well. But yeah, let the underdrawing bleed through. Yeah, these little patches of red were the underdrawing, but I decided to leave them. I think it looks cool. Focus on the largest forms first and then chisel into them. Usually hearts. I don't agree with this thing. Don't neglect the shapes, especially heart shapes. Then some more quotes. Go to the masters to learn how they handle nature. Grow into yourself with the knowledge of the masters, not style. Copy people to pick up knowledge and use in your own means. And we look to masters to learn their means. And then this one was a study by Zorn. I was watching a video about Craig Mullins where he was explaining that finishing is the same process as the start, but just at a finer level. And I've heard that video before, but I don't know what happened where it suddenly clicked. I was like, oh, and then I was able to just get such a better result using that approach, such as this guy is just a cone. He's also a cone. This is a sphere. But then after looking at the cone, I would take the hand. It's sort of like some sort of rectangle. And then I could go into the rectangle and carve out, oh, these are just cylinders. Yeah, and I could just keep going. Like over here, this was just one big curve, one cone, semicone. And then the cone has little cones. Pretty good. I butchered the face, but I don't mind that. It still looks like a face. It still looks like the light source is hitting it, so I think that's fine. The hand looks like a hand, though it looks kind of dead, but live and learn. And then I put a little thing about you do studies and copies to play with what you want to understand. And in this one, it was studying optical and form-based approaches together. Put in the description the 3 videos that were conducive to this approach. It was a video by Chelsea Lang, a video by Bobby Chiu, where he interviewed Craig Mullins. Yeah, 2 of them. Yep. And in this one, I try to take everything I learned and do a fan art for a friend. Painting should go on top of the drawing. Oh yeah, yeah. I try to do painting from the bottom up. I should draw something first, and then the painting should go as like glazing or like a frosting. Brushwork is not structure. A good art. This one's from Borodante. A good artist is trying to make good paintings. A bad artist is trying to be a good artist. This is referring to the focus of your work. You shouldn't think about yourself as trying to be a good artist. You should think of yourself as trying to solve a painting, or take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Optical approach, construction approach, shape compression, and form compression. And this will be more thoroughly explained in the Chelsea Lang video I'll link. Details are the same steps as walking in, but done on a finer level. So yeah, that's for the month. And that's that. This month was overall pretty good. I think I ended it on a relatively high note. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next month, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And thank you for watching.